Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about how we paid double to travel hours slower on this Amtrak train. All right guys, so for a long time we wanted to try out one of Amtrak's most unique train rides, and that is a train ride that includes you and a travel buddy, which is your car. You both get to travel on this incredibly unique Amtrak train. It's the only route like this in the US. We wanted to try it for a long time. We thought, well, let's give it a go. We were trying to get from Virginia down to Florida, and we thought, well, let's buy a ticket on it. It seems like a really good deal. We also had some coupons that we could use from our guest rewards account. So we thought to ourselves, let's give it a go. And we had an interesting experience on the train, and it got us thinking, how much would it have cost if we had just driven there instead of riding the train down? Everybody knows we love to ride the train. It does give you some unique experiences and all that kind of good stuff. But did we make the right decision by paying double to ride the train than to just drive ourselves down there? So let's talk about it. So the Auto Train boasts nonstop service, which is 855 miles between Lorton, Virginia, and Sanford, Florida, which is, so Lorton, Virginia is about 30 miles south of DC, and Sanford, Florida is about 30 miles north of Orlando. So if you're headed down, if you're like, a family on spring break and you're headed down to Florida to go to Disney World, this is a great idea to try this instead of doing the whole, road trip thing. And really, I think the largest majority of people that use this train is retirement travelers and snowbirds going from the north down to Florida. So it seems like a perfect idea, really. You could, load your car in there. The great thing too is you can pack your car, and the car goes with so you can bring more luggage basically, because you could pack your car to the gills, and it gets loaded into the car train for cars is what I should say. And you can bring all your things and then still bring luggage onto the train with you. It takes about 17 and a half hours, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. It does only have one very, very brief stop in the middle of the night in Florence, South Carolina, for basically a quick crew change. And they do that very, very quickly. So the Auto Train's costs are divided up into two parts. So there is the fee that you pay for the humans, the people going on the train, and then you pay a fee for the car. So you can get it usually for about $39, although I have seen for $19. This is for coach seat. And it's just one night, so it is actually pretty doable, especially since almost everybody else on the train is gonna kind of be like you as well, doing this train ride, because you can only take this train if you have a car accompanying with you on the train. You cannot ride this train if you're not bringing a car with you. So that's what separates this one a little bit as well. So let's talk about those costs. So if you're doing coach, you're looking at about $39. And like I said, I've seen it as low as $19 before. Now, the car fee will run you maybe like around $600. Just depends on when you're going. Busiest time is between October and April, which is the hottest time, because that's usually when your snowbirds are generally traveling. A little bit after April or into April and May, depending on when Easter falls, is where your spring breakers are going to be going down to Florida as well. And then if you want priority offloading, which again, I'll talk about more in just a minute, that's gonna be $65. And I'll tell you how we avoided that charge as well. And so you're looking at, for a solo traveler, then you're looking at about $600 and about $1,200 for two people. So we're talking about a pretty significant amount of money. But let's talk about driving. So driving from Lorton to Sanford is about 811 miles by road in your car, and you're going to be traveling on I-95 and I-4, both of which we know are known for a lot of problems. Now we're gonna have to guess here at about 25 miles per gallon. And let's say gas is about $3.50. We're talking about the East Coast here. So that's, I think, pretty fair price right there. You're looking at about $113 in fuel one way. Then if you're not gonna do that full ride, which is about 12.5-hour ride, used to do this all the time, honestly, when we had little kids. But anymore these days, I don't want to drive more than about 7 or 8 hours, to be honest. I'd do maybe just 6 if I had to, 6 or 7, and then break it up. So if you're going to break it up with a hotel room, boy, I got to tell you right now, just a quick soapbox here, how expensive hotel rooms, especially the ones right off the highway, have gotten in the last few years in the US is absolutely wild to me. Let's say $150 for a decent hotel room if you're going to break up that ride. Plus you're looking at, again, this number is a little bit on the low end. I'm being generous here, about $50 for the meals and about $10 or so for your tolls. So you're looking at about $350 for 2 people because you're not paying extra for whoever else is in the car with you. While when you go on the train, you're paying extra for anybody else you're bringing with you. If you're in your car, you don't pay extra. So it doesn't cost you much more other than maybe just extra money for, food. Maybe add a little bit extra fuel, but not much to make it a significant difference. Then you have to consider the fact that maintenance and wear and tear on your car as well. You can add about 30 cents per mile on that. So about, let's say $243, bumping the total to about $600. So driving is obviously considerably cheaper. So it's about half price of what you're paying for just a solo to ride the train, because you're taking, let's say, 2 people, so you're paying basically half price, so you're getting the second person for free. So let's talk about the comfort. Driving 811 miles on I-95 and I-4 does not sound like a lot of fun. I actually haven't driven these in a while because they are just so hectic. It feels like I'm in like a drag race anytime that I'm on 95 and even I-4. We used to live in Central Florida in the Tampa Bay area, and whenever we had to get on I-4, I was stressed out just getting in the car. So you're dealing with all kinds of messes. There seem to always be accidents and closures and all kinds of problems. So you're gonna have to deal with that. And then you have to deal with bathroom breaks and refueling and acquiring food along the way. You could also, it's Florida, so you can also hit some bad weather with storms. Again, I-95 is notorious for a lot of problems. If you're traveling on your own, again, you do need to get some rest and stop and move around, wake yourself up, all that kind of stuff. Now the auto train, all right, let's talk about what that's like. So if you're on the auto train, as opposed to, so this is the comfort of the train. If you're on the auto train, even in the, let's just talk the coach seats, even in the coach seats, you've got these really nice wide seats that recline quite a bit. So erase the idea of like an airplane seat. You're going to have way more room. You can lean back more, so you can actually almost lay back in such a comfortable position that you could actually sleep in this position, because there's also a footrest that comes up and you can very easily sleep in this seat. Everybody's going to be trying to sleep also because they're going to want to wake up the next morning and be able to hit the ground running for wherever they're going. So people are going to want to be sleeping in coach on this one. The other great thing about coach on actually all Amtrak trains, but especially on the auto train, is that there's no middle seat, so it's just 2 and 2 on the seats there, so that's really nice. Now if you do upgrade obviously to a roomette or a bedroom, which is what we chose to do, you get a little bit more. You get your meals included, you get the attendant for your train car, and you do get just a little bit more, kind of comfort, let's say, and privacy than you would in coach. In coach, you're just obviously in the train car with everybody, whilst you're in a roomette or a bedroom, you have a private space and you can actually lay all the way flat to go to sleep. Now, there is no observation car though on the auto train, because This train actually is just like an overnight train. You get on in the very early evening and you travel all night, and then the next morning or fairly early in the morning you are there. So there's really not a lot involved in this one. That's why I say it could be an option to do the coach, because the other people traveling with you are also traveling with their car as well. So you're going to have more favorable conditions to ride in coach on the auto train than you would on any other sleeper train with Amtrak. You know, the really cool thing too is, as I mentioned earlier, if you're a chronic overpacker, this is going to be a super option for you, because you can bring whatever you want. You don't have to worry about, now Amtrak does have very generous baggage allowances with 2 check bags, and 1 carry-on plus a personal item. So it's quite a bit of stuff. But if you want to bring a lot more than that, you can pack it all into your car. Now, you don't have access to your car while you're on the train, but you just bring whatever you want into the train with you. But whatever you want for your trip, you can have packed in your car and not have to worry about it, because it's nice and safe there, all locked up. So convenience is really where things start to get a little bit interesting when we're talking about, you know, paying double to ride the train versus just driving yourself. So you drop off your car. You have to drop your car off between 11:30 and 2 p.m. if you're on a motorcycle. And then Amtrak, what they do is they receive your vehicle, they videotape your vehicle just in case there's any damage or anything like that, which I think is a great process. So there's no problems on the other end. They've got that video evidence if there's any problem. Again, you can't access the vehicle once they load it on. You cannot get to that car again until you get to your destination. So you leave, like I said, around 5 early evening, and you get into Sanford around 10 if the train is on time. Usually does run a little bit late, just like any other Amtrak train, so don't plan to be somewhere exactly after you get there. Now, this train in particular is not notorious for hours late, but it will be at least a little bit late. There's always, you know, some delays because you've got your freight traffic. They share the same tracks with the train, so that is kind of a bit of a nuisance, if you ask me. But the other thing is that you have to travel to Lorton, Virginia. So you have to get to that station. So if you don't live like in DC, you're going to have to travel more than 30 minutes to get to that station. And you arrive into Sanford, Florida. So you're going to have to travel to wherever you're going from there. You're likely probably not going to Sanford, Orlando, or Sanford, Florida. So there's that. Now, driving, you're going to get a little bit more flexibility. So you have a little bit more rigidity as far as the car is concerned with the train, but a little more flexibility. If you are driving, you can always stop someplace cool. There's some really great places along the way to stop. Like you could stop in Savannah, Georgia, beautiful old town. If you haven't stopped there before, another really great place to stop along I-95 would be St. Augustine. It's a really great place to visit for scenic views and some fun things to do. If you want to add that to your trip, obviously that extends the amount of time it's going to take you to get there. But you know, you do avoid having to stick to the train schedule and not being able to stop and look around or anything like that. But you do have to, you know, kind of put up with anything that comes up on the road as far as traffic and weather and accidents and construction, plus paying for the tolls, all that kind of stuff. Whereas the auto train has more of like a fixed route, and they pretty much stick to a schedule. So there's no, you know, no stopping along the way. And just so you know, there's no fresh air breaks really. Like I said, they stop just the one time for a little bit of a stop. And it's not really a fresh air break per se. It's literally just for that staff change. Although I have heard people ask before if they could hop off and like do a quick smoke or something. But be advised that this stop is in the middle of the night. So if you desperately want to smoke, you'd have to get up at like, I think it's like 2 or 3 in the morning or something like that when they make that stop. So that doesn't sound super appealing to me. So all of that said, let's summarize the pros and cons. Auto train pros: no driving stress, avoiding, you know, the miles and miles of traffic on I-95 and I-4, avoiding accidents, all that kind of stuff. On the auto train, you know, you'll have comfortable seats in coach, but if they're in the private rooms, you'll have also some great meals included. You can pack as much. There's not really any baggage limits. You can pack whatever you want in there. You don't have to worry about being cramped in the car with all of your luggage, because you'll be comfortable on the train in either your seat or in your sleeper room. As I mentioned before, this is a really great option for families traveling with kids. This is a good way to kind of break up the trip. You can get a couple of roomettes or get 4 seats if there's 4 of you, or however many there are. You can get enough seats and just hang out in coach and sleep there, or you can get a couple of sleeper rooms, or you know, so that you can be more comfortable if you want to actually lay all the way down. It's also a really good option for people with mobility needs. That way you don't have to worry about, you know, taking 2 or 3 days to drive down. It's very easy. You pack your car onto the train and they get you there, and then you get out and you don't have to worry about that. So what are the auto train cons? Let's break those down again. It's more expensive, double or more in some cases, depending on what you choose for your seating, especially the private rooms. If you get a roomette or a bedroom, even more you're paying for that, especially during peak season, which I mentioned was about October to about mid-April for the high season. If you travel during other times, you may get a much better price on that as well. You have to get to both stations, so to Lorton and from Sanford. So you have to get yourself, add that kind of into your calculations of your time. And then of course, possible delays. Not possible, the delays that will come will having to wait for those freight trains, freight traffic as well. And then you don't have access to your car during your trip. And then now this is where it depends on what you do as far as unloading. You could just not pay a fee for the unloading and it'll just be unloaded in the order. Basically, the reverse order of how they loaded them is how they unload them. So if you paid extra, it's I think $65 to pay for priority offloading, and they only have so many of those spots available because they put all of the cars that are the priority offloading in one particular train car, and so then they know to offload all of those, and they come off pretty quickly. We actually had a coupon for a free upgrade to priority offloading, which I gotta tell you, was actually super excellent. I had read that it can take up to an hour, hour and a half. Some people said they even waited up to 2 hours to get their car offloaded from the auto train, but we had that coupon for the free priority offloading, so we used that and it was great. We literally, once they opened up the train car and started offloading cars, I think ours was like the 3rd or 4th car that was offloaded. So we got our car and we were out of there pretty quickly. So that was really great because we had another little fun side trip going off of that. So that's what you need to know as far as the priority offloading. Now let's talk about the driving pros. Of course, it's going to be cheaper, especially if you've got a lot of people. If you've got 4, 5, 6 people, that's going to get really expensive really, really quick. You've got full control and full flexibility. You can stop whenever you want. You can eat wherever you want, whatever you want, and just take a break if you want to wherever you want, or do, little side trips as well. As far as driving cons, physically and mentally, it is taxing. 12.5 hours behind the wheel can really wear you down, no matter if there's traffic or not traffic. You do have to pay attention. You can't just check out. 12.5 hours is a long time to be behind the wheel. Rather, you have to deal with, accidents, traffic, and bad weather. And of course, the wear and tear on your car, as well as the, higher carbon footprint as well. And you'll have to, of course, be paying for some place to stay if you're going to stop along the way, and for your meals and gas stops, and of course, any of the hassle that goes along with that. So all of that being said, which one would I choose? So let's talk about you first. You got to think about what your priorities are. If you're trying to choose between should I drive or should I break this up and take the train instead, you have to try to figure out, do you value comfort? especially if you hate long drives, or, you want to arrive to wherever you're going rested. Let's say you have something planned for that day. Let's say your family's going on spring break and you want to go to Disney the very first day. You take the auto train, you can hop in your car and head straight to Disney, no concerns. Whereas if you pull up there that morning after having driven through the night or whatever, it's not going to be super fun. Probably going to lose that day because you're going to be so exhausted. Now, the auto train, again, is perfect for those snowbirds. If you are trying to get from, you're not trying to get anywhere fast, even if it's behind a little bit in schedule, you're still going to get there. You cut out that part of the trip. I met a lot of Canadians and people from up north in the US on the train who come down to Lorton and they take the train down to Florida. They say, hey, we cut out this 12-hour part. We already drove all the way down here. We thought instead of driving all the way down to Florida, we'd cut that part out and hop on the train and take it down the rest of the way. As I said before, you can also get really great deals. I have seen the auto train for a coach seat as little as $19, and sometimes they have really good sales as well on the price of the car. Now, that's going to vary depending on what type of vehicle you got. If you've got a regular car, if you've got a regular SUV, and a bigger SUV, if you've got a motorcycle. So you got to check the website at Amtrak.com or the app to see how much it's going to cost for your particular vehicle. They'll ask you for the make and everything of the brand and make of your vehicle in order to calculate that. Then they'll know the actual sizing and can give you a more accurate price when you're doing that. So in the end, we did spend double to travel quite a bit slower and not have any control of our travel day, but it was so comfortable and so easy that honestly, even for the few hassles that it was to do the auto train, it was so nice to arrive. And because we had another trip, we were doing a driving trip once we got to Florida, we were refreshed and, we felt like, okay, we can hop in the car and do our road trip now, even though we just were on the train all night to get down here, because we were able to actually rest and, feel really good when we got there. So I guess my question is which one are you going to do? Do you think it's better to pay almost double to ride the auto train, or do you think you're going to stick to driving? I think personally, the auto train is such a great option, and it's enjoyable, and I just think that it's so much easier than having to drive that big chunk. I feel like the older I get, the less I want to drive, and especially long drives like this, I feel like there's always going to be a problem. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think, or what you would do in this situation. And if you've been on the auto train, let me know if you enjoyed it or if you've changed your mind and you decided to drive instead moving forward. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give me a like if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys next time.